හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Friday the 2nd of February 2024. Cuffed. Minister Keheliya Ramukwala arrested by the CID for allegedly importing substandard medicines to Sri Lanka. Called off. Health sector trade unions decide to temporarily call off strikes from 6:30 a.m. tomorrow. Make amends. UN Human Rights Office urges the government to consider amending the Online Safety Act, claiming it stifles freedom of expression. Pivotal. Colombo port of key importance in international trade, says US Ambassador Julie Chung.
Sri Lanka has a vital role to play in facilitating global trade and ensuring the world's cargo efficiently traverses the Indian Ocean.
Further reveals commitment to bolster Indo-Pacific security while ensuring maritime sovereignty.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසින් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana First at 9. I'm Aditya Dirisinghe joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, an island-wide strike action launched by the health sector trade unions demanding the disturbance, availability and transportation allowance continued throughout the course of the day. As a result of the strikes, many patients who visited government hospitals for treatment were greatly inconvenienced. Taking the situation into consideration, the government continued to deploy the military to address staffing concerns in hospitals. However, today, the health sector trade unions decided to temporarily call off the strike from 6:30 a.m. tomorrow.
72 health sector trade unions commenced a strike action from 6:30 a.m. yesterday, demanding the 35,000 rupee disturbance, availability and transport allowance or DAT, which is currently offered to doctors exclusively. Relevant trade unions engaged in discussions and arrived at a decision to continue the strike action, claiming that no solutions for their concerns were provided by the government. As such, the strike action continued through the course of today as well. The Health Services Trade Union Alliance stated that nearly 100,000 employees joined today's strike, similar to yesterday. Employees of 18 sectors including medical laboratory scientists, radiologists, audiologists as well as physical occupational therapists engaged in the strike. Outpatient and residential treatment services were halted due to the strike and patients were greatly inconvenienced once again through the day. However, continuing yesterday's efforts, the government deployed army personnel to curb any inconvenience caused to the public. The doctors' unions and the All Ceylon Nurses Union, however, decided to refrain from joining the strike action.
වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට DAT දීමනාව ලැබෙනකොට නිලැඳුම් දීමනාව ලැබෙන කණ්ඩායම් වෙනම ඉන්නවා. ඒ අතරේදී තවත් කණ්ඩායම් ඉන්නවා අවදානම් දීමනාවක් ලැබෙන. දැන් මේ අවදානම් දීමනාව කියන එක වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙමයි කියලා ඒක ඉල්ලන්නේ නැහැ අපි. අනිත් පැත්තෙන් දැන් මේට්‍රන්ලට ඉගැන්වීමේ දීමනාවක් මාසිකව යම් මුදලක් ඔවුන්ගේ වැටුපට එකතු වෙනවා. එතකොට ඒක මේ පද්ධතියේ ඉන්න වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට විශේෂඥ වෛද්‍යවරුන්ට ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා තමයි අපි කියන්නේ මේ කරන වැඩ වර්ජන ක්‍රියාවලිය හරහා රටට ලැබෙන්නේ වැරදි පූර්වාදර්ශයක්. Tamanට හිමි නැති, Tamanට අයිති නැති දීමනාවක් මේ ඉල්ලන්නේ.
විශේෂයෙන්ම පරිපූර්ණක වෛද්‍ය වෘත්තීන්ගේ සේවාවේ නිරත නිලධාරීන්ට ඩැට් කියන නමින්ම උනත් මේ දීමනාව ලබා දීමට සුදුසුකම් තියෙනවා. මේ වෙලාවේදී අපිට දකින්න තියෙන කාරණාවක් තමයි රජය හෝ සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය යම් යම් වෘත්තීය සමිති භාවිතා කරමින් ඔවුන්ගේ ප්‍රකාශන මගින් මේ වෘත්තීය සමිති ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයේ නිරත වෙලා ඉන්න වෘත්තිකයන්ව සෞඛ්‍ය සේවකයන්ව කුලප්පු කරමින් ඉන්නවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම රජයේ වෛද්‍ය නිලධාරීන්ගේ සංගමයේ ඉන්න නිලධාරීන්ට කියනවා එවැනි හැසිරීම් ඔබ පෙන්වන්න එපා.
In the meantime, the Association of Medical Specialists in a letter addressed to the President stated that they will launch a trade union action if health sector trade unions currently engaged in the strike action are provided an allowance which they are not entitled to claim. Earlier this morning, members of health sector trade unions were given the opportunity to discuss the matter with the health minister. Unionists who attended the meeting, however, claimed that the meeting did not have a positive outcome. Meanwhile, health sector trade unions decided to temporarily call off the ongoing island-wide strike action by 6:30 a.m. tomorrow.
ලබන අඟහරුවාදා දිනේ මේ කාරණාව සම්බන්ධයෙන් මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයේ සහ ජනාධිපති ලේකම්වරයාගේ සහභාගීත්වයෙන් සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ සහභාගීත්වයෙන් නිශ්චිත සාකච්ඡාවක් පවත්වන්නට මේ වෙනකොට අපිට එකඟතාවයක් පළ කරලා තියෙනවා. ජනාධිපතිවරයාගේ ධනාත්මක මැදිහත් වීමත් සෞඛ්‍ය ඇමතිවරයාගේ ධනාත්මක මැදිහත් වීමත් මේ ගැටලුවක් විදිහට අරගෙන සාකච්ඡා කිරීම සඳහා අවස්ථාවක් විවර කිරීමත් කියන කාරණාවන් සියල්ල සලකලා බලලා අපි තීරණය කරා අපි ආරම්භ කරපු වර්ජන ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය ලබන බදාදා වෙනකන් తాවකාලිකව අත්හිටවන්න. අපේ වර්ජන ක්‍රියාමාර්ගය හෙට උදෑසන 6:30ට తాවකාලිකව අත්හිටවනවා.
Now taking you to some other groundbreaking developments in the country's health sector, former Health Minister Keheliya Ramukwala was arrested in connection with his alleged complicity in the procurement of substandard medicines. He was arrested while recording a statement at the CID upon an order issued by the Maligakanda Magistrates Court.
As a part of the investigations pertaining to the procurement of substandard medicine, former Minister of Health Keheliya Ramukwala was supposed to make an appearance before the CID on Wednesday. However, he failed to do so on account of attending the proceedings of a matter before the Colombo High Court as well as a ministerial subcommittee meeting convened at the Presidential Secretariat. As a result, Ramukwala had requested the CID in writing to fix another date for him to provide his statement. When the case pertaining to the importation of substandard medicines were taken up for hearing at the Maligakanda Magistrate Court yesterday, Deputy Solicitor General Lakmini Girihagama informed the court that the former health minister failed to arrive at the CID and record his statement. Following the Deputy Solicitor General's submission, the Maligakanda Magistrate Court ordered Keheliya Ramukwala to arrive at the CID today and record a statement. Further, a travel ban was also imposed on the former Minister of Health. Subsequently, this morning, former Health Minister Keheliya Ramukwala arrived at the CID to record a statement. While the minister's statement was recorded, members of civil society organizations staged a protest in front of the CID, calling on the CID officials to arrest Ramukwala. After hours of inquiry, former Minister of Health and incumbent Environment Minister Keheliya Ramukwala was arrested this evening for his alleged complicity in the procurement of substandard medicines.
Now in other news, US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, says the US support to the Colombo port focuses on streamlining port operations and incorporating leading standards in the industry with the ultimate goal of reducing vessel turnaround time and enabling the port to handle greater amount of cargo. Addressing an event where the US donated $1.5 million for the development of human resources in Sri Lanka's port sector, the US envoy said that they are continuing to bolster Indo-Pacific security and enhance Sri Lanka's capabilities to maintain and protect its maritime sovereignty. Taking the situation in the Red Sea into account, meanwhile, the US ambassador is of the view that the Colombo port has a vital role to play in terms of international trade.
The Port of Colombo is also a transmission hub that we also heard about that handled nearly 7 million TEUs in 2023. Those numbers will continue to grow exponentially as the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation funded West Container Terminal in cooperation with the Adani Group and John Keels, and the SLPA-operated East Container Terminal come online in the coming year. So Sri Lanka's ports will play an essential role in supporting Sri Lanka's economy as the island steadily recovers from past crises. Now, while all of Sri Lanka's ports by nature serve as important connection points to other ports around the world, the Port of Colombo is special. That is South Asia's only mega port and transshipment hub, shuttling cargo from feeder ships to motherships and vice versa. Our assistance is aimed at streamlining operations and incorporating industry-leading standards with the ultimate goal of reducing vessel turnaround time, allowing for the port to handle greater amounts of cargo. To meet the goal of promoting promoting private sector-led economic growth, the recent U.S. investment of $553 million to support the West Container Terminal will establish the nation's largest deepwater terminal and expand the Port of Colombo capacity by nearly 50%. This critical infrastructure project will not only provide a boost to Sri Lanka's economy and demonstrate to the world that the United States is committed to the development of Sri Lanka, but it signals to other nations the existence of sound investment opportunities here. So by sharing all these best practices and resources, we will continue to bolster Indo-Pacific security and enhance Sri Lanka's capabilities to maintain and protect its maritime sovereignty. The current situation in the Red Sea underscores the importance of Sri Lanka's ports in ensuring supply chain resiliency and the need for enhancing port capacity. So Sri Lanka has a vital role to play in facilitating global trade and ensuring the world's cargo efficiently traverses the Indian Ocean. So these are just a few of the examples of how the United States is steadfast in our cooperation. But it's also all the member states of the Colombo Plan that we must work together to enhance the capability and capacity of Sri Lanka's maritime sector.
Now, the Sri Lankan government and the World Bank have signed an agreement for $150 million in financing to strengthen the resilience of the financial sector through the Financial Sector Safety Net Strengthening Project. Along with the signing of the Financial Sector Safety Net Strengthening Project, a separate project agreement was also signed by the World Bank and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, empowering the Central Bank with the powers of agency to implement the Safety Net Strengthening Project.
The development objective of this particular project is to strengthen Sri Lanka's financial sector safety net with a focus on Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme, which is managed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The project also aims to strengthen the financial and institutional capacity of the Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme in line with international best practices for effective deposit insurance schemes. The CBSL will be the implementing agency of the Financial Sector Safety Net Strengthening Project. Treasury Secretary Mahinda Siriwardana represented the government during the signing ceremony, while Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe represented the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, acting in his official capacity as its governor. Meanwhile, World Bank Country Director for Maldives, Nepal and Sri Lanka, Faris Haddad Zervos, represented the World Bank at the same ceremony. During the ceremony, the Central Bank Governor, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, revealed that the proposed loan will boost the reserves of the Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme, enhancing its payout capability. He added that it would also facilitate the Sri Lanka Deposit Insurance Scheme to become more aligned with internationally accepted best practices on deposit insurance. Also attending the ceremony, World Bank Country Director for Maldives, Nepal and Sri Lanka, Faris Haddad Zervos, said strengthening the deposit insurance scheme will safeguard the savings of smaller depositors, including women and people living in rural areas. It will also sustain the confidence in Sri Lanka's financial system, which will pave the way for job creation, business growth and enhanced financial well-being of all Sri Lankans.
Now, in more local news, Litrogas chairman Mudita Peiris says that the prices of cooking gas will remain unchanged for February, even though the prices in the international market have increased off the back of global economic and geopolitical concerns. In a media briefing today, Litro chairman further revealed that due to the perseverance of the directors and staff at Litrogas Lanka, the company is strong enough to bear the brunt of the financial burden imposed, alleviating those concerns from the general public.
Previously in the month of January, Litrogas Lanka took steps to increase the prices of 12.5 kilogram, 5 kilogram and 2.3 kilogram gas cylinders by 685 rupees, 276 rupees and 127 rupees respectively. Chairman of Litrogas Mudita Peiris today said that Litrogas will be sold in the month of February at the same prices as in January. Accordingly, a 12.5 kilogram gas cylinder will be sold for 4,250 rupees, a 5 kilogram gas cylinder for 1,707 rupees, and a 2.3 kilogram gas cylinder for 795 rupees.
ලෝක වෙළඳපොලේ ගෑස් මිල වැඩි වෙන්න බලපාපු හේතු කාරණා කීපයක් තියෙනවා. එකක් ගෑස් නැව්වල ගමනාගමනයට බලපාන සමහර කාරණා නිසා නැව්වල රක්ෂණ වාරිකය වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ හරහා ගෑස් මිලට යම් බලපෑමක් ඇති කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒකම සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි ගිය මාසවල වගේම ඊශ්‍රායල් ගාසා තීරයේ අර්බුදකාරී තත්ත්වය ඒකම අනිකුත් ලෝක අර්බුදකාරී වාතාවරණයන් LPG ගෑස් වලට ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකක් විදිහට නැත්නම් කර්මාන්තයක් විදිහට බලපාලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් ලිට්‍රෝ පාරිභෝගිකයන් අපි පෙබරවාරි මාසයට අදාළව සත පහක්වත් මිල වැඩි කරන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක විශේෂයෙන්ම කියන්න කැමති. මූල්‍ය අර්බුදයට මුහුණ දීලා තියෙන වෙලාවක ජනතාවගේ බර ජනතාවට දැනෙන මූල්‍යමය අපහසුතා හිතමින් සහ ඒ ගැන නිරීක්ෂණය කරමින් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා පෙබරවාරි මාසෙටත් මේ තියෙන මිල ගණන්ම දිගටම පවත්වාගෙන යන්න. ලෝක වෙළඳ පොලේ ගෑස් මිල වැඩි වෙලා ඒ හරහා එන බලපෑම ඒ හරහා එන මූල්‍යමය පාඩුව ආයතනයක් විදියට ලිට්‍රෝ ගෑස් ආයතනයේ විදියට අපි දරා ගන්න තීරණය කළා මේ ගමන. විශේෂයෙන්ම පහුගිය කාලවකවානුව තුල ආයතනයේ කාර්යක්ෂමව පවත්වාගෙන යාම ආයතනයේ අධ්‍යක්ෂක මණ්ඩලය ඇතුළු ආයතනයේ සේවය කරන නිලධාරීන් සේවකීන් සියලු දෙනාගේ කැපවීම මත මේ ආයතනය ශක්තිමත් කරන්න අපිට පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මේ ශක්තිමත් කිරීමේ මූලික පරමාර්ථයක් තමයි මේ වගේ අර්බුදකාරී අවස්ථාවක මූල්‍ය පීඩනය වැඩියෙන්ම දැනෙන අවස්ථාවක දිගින් දිගටම මිල වැඩි කරන්නේ නැතුව මිල මේ මට්ටමේ තබා ගන්න සහ ආයතනය ඒ ලැබෙන මූල්‍ය පාඩුව ආයතනයක් විදිහට දරාගෙන ඉස්සරහට යන්නේ.
Lavs Gas PLC has also decided to not revise the prices of domestic LP gas cylinders in the month of February. Accordingly, the price of a 12.5 kilogram Lavs gas cylinder will remain at 4,740 rupees, while the price of a 5 kilogram cylinder will remain at 1,900 rupees.
Now, the Urumia National Operations Secretariat, slated to provide timely solutions to community problems, was inaugurated by the Secretary to the President, Saman Ekanayaka, yesterday. The Secretariat was established to address long-standing concerns regarding land rights in rural areas of Sri Lanka and to also manage issues pertaining to land security of farmers.
Secretary to the President Saman Ekanayaka officially inaugurated the Urumia National Operations Secretariat at the President's office in the old Standard Chartered building yesterday. President Ranil Wickremesinghe's vision of empowering farmers through land ownership falls in line with the government's announcement to grant freehold titles to 2 million families. This recent initiative is aimed at addressing long-standing concerns regarding land rights in rural areas of Sri Lanka. The plan to distribute 2 million freehold land titles to farming families initiated by the government prompted discussions about its potential impact on rural communities and land ownership in Sri Lanka. The initiative also seeks to address concerns about land security for farmers. The Urumia National Operations Secretariat, established under the President's office, will work to deliver timely solutions to community problems. This aim is achieved through the implementation of the steering mechanism, which involves collaboration with relevant institutions.
Now, the UN Human Rights Office urged the government of Sri Lanka to consider amending the Online Safety Act, emphasizing that the act imposes negative implications for human rights, including freedom of expression. Taking to the social media platform X, the UN Human Rights Office stated that the government must consider amending the act to address concerns of civil societies. The statement also added that it is crucial to ensure that the act complies with international human rights obligations. The Online Safety Bill was passed in Parliament early on the 24th of January, while it was endorsed by the Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapabewardena yesterday. As per the Government of Sri Lanka, the legislation aims to ban online communication of certain statements in the country, prevent the use of online accounts, both authentic and inauthentic, for the use of prohibited purposes, to suppress financing and support of communication of false statements and of other related matters. Welcome back. Now in your top business story for the evening. Today, the Sri Lanka Ports Authority received the first 3 of the 12 STS gantry cranes to be received from China. The Ports Authority said the cranes will be installed at the East Container Terminal at the Colombo Port and added that the cranes will enable the terminal to operate at its maximum capacity and attract more deep draught vessels into the Colombo Port in the coming years.
Sri Lanka Ports Authority has ordered brand new 12 STS gantry cranes and 40 ARMG cranes from China at a total cost of $282 million. 3 STS gantry cranes of the total order were brought in by the Shenhua 24 ship to the East Container Terminal of the Colombo Port today and were received by the officials of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. The cranes are to be installed in the East Container Terminal of the port, which will allow it to operate at its maximum capacity and attract more deep draught vessels, while significantly contributing to the annual increase in volumes of the port and provide additional berthing facilities for deep draught vessels at the port.
We need also to ensure that the human resource development also being brought the highest level, utilization, automation, and those are the aspects we need in order to compete with our neighboring port in India, Dubai and Singapore. So I am quite confident that we will be able to build a very educated, very professional workforce, both men and women in this port in order to ensure very smooth functioning of this port together with the semi-automated equipments, etc. This will contribute a lot to our national economy. At the moment, we have transshipment extent to about 8.5 million TEUs, but our target is to increase it to 50 million in time to come.
Now bringing to you some more news around shipping in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's China-run Hambantota International Port has welcomed over 300 oil and gas cargo vessels in 2023, which is a 132% year-on-year increase from the previous year. Officials of the port further said that the port is looking at the energy sector as the growth market for Hambantota International Port while actively promoting it. Port officials further expect figures this year to far exceed last year's records.
The Chinese-run Hambantota International Port says that there were over 300 oil and gas cargo vessel visits to the port in 2023, recording a 132% increase in vessel calls compared to 2022. The port in a recent statement said a key reason for this is the port's bunkering partner Sinopec actively operating in the market, bringing significant value addition to the Hambantota International Port's commercial operations. The overall oil and gas throughput handled by the port in 2023 was 918,000 metric tons, with 700,000 metric tons of bunker and 218,000 metric tons of LPG cargo. A total of 35 vessels called at the Hambantota port in July 2023, making it the month of the highest number of calls during the year. The port recorded a growth of 186% in LPG vessels and 125% growth in bunker vessels in 2023 as opposed to the 114 bunker and 15 LPG vessels that called in 2022. In terms of throughput, the port saw 218% overall growth with 147% increase in LPG and 250% increase in bunker as opposed to 2022, with July marking the highest. The Chief Operating Officer of the port, Tissa Wickramasinghe, says that the Hambantota International Port is looking at the energy sector as a growth market and are actively promoting it and expect the figures to more than double in the current year.
Now in other business news, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed in green for the fourth consecutive session today, helped by gains in financial and industrial stocks. The Colombo Stock Exchange all-share price index rose by 0.53% to end at 10,430.79 points. For the week, it rose 0.92%, snapping 3 consecutive weeks of losses. Ceylon Cold Stores plc and Dialog Axiata plc were the top gainers on the index, rising 5.6% and 2.2% respectively. Trading volume on the ASPI rose to 45.9 million shares from 41.2 million shares in the previous session. The S&P Sri Lanka 20 meanwhile climbed 0.33% to settle at 2,943.03 points. Equity markets turnover rose to 1.39 billion rupees from 1.41 billion rupees in the previous session. Diversified financial sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, while the capital goods sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers offloading stocks worth 166 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers purchasing shares worth 1.38 billion rupees. Now let's take a look at the rupee exchange rates during the day. Now in your latest corporate developments, the 20th edition of the educational exhibition edX Expo 2024 is scheduled to be held from the second week of February. This year's exhibition will be held at the Sri Lanka Exhibition and Convention Centre in Colombo from February 9th onwards and in the Kandy City Centre from the 17th of February. With that, let's take a look at the corporate news segment for the evening.
The caption units of the CAL 5-year Optimum Fund were officially listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange yesterday.
Accordingly, 193.9 million units of the fund were listed by way of an introduction and is the first unit listing in over a decade, warranting the occasion to be marked with a special bell-ringing ceremony. The CAL 5-year Optimum Fund is a closed-end fixed-income unit trust scheme with a lifespan of 5 years approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, the edX Expo 2024, the education exhibition, will take place from 9th to 11th February at the Sri Lanka Exhibition and Convention Centre in Colombo and on 17th and 18th February 2024 at the Kandy City Centre in Kandy. There will be 132 local and foreign education provider stalls in Colombo with 60 local and international education provider stalls in Kandy, including direct universities from Australia, Canada, Japan, France, the UAE, Pakistan, India and China at the edX Expo 2024. edX Expo will kick off at 9:30 am and conclude at 6 pm on all days in Colombo, while in Kandy it will run from 10 am to 6 pm.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of AdaDerana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.adaderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.